I've been in the space of human performance for about 30 years. Spent a decade as a professional athlete, and we used to say life begins at 80, naked, in the middle of winter, hurling yourself down a mountain. That's when you come alive. I learned the value of hard work, but hard work in and of itself can have a lot of collateral damage in the road to the top, and I had some collateral damage, ruined my knees and in my career. So then I tried to overcompensate when I got into my next career in finance and technology and outsmart my hard work. And smart work in and of itself, with sort of the absence of you being yourself, is not really sustainable. I spent the last decade in the health food business, the fruit and vegetable business. And I've learned, whether you're working with individuals, or we work with independent contractors, I've learned that you can't push rope. And if you try to outsmart, outthink, outmove, outdesire other people's health and abundance, it's a fool's game. People need to be ready, they need to be willing, and they need to be able or enabled. And being ready is about an ethic, it's about a core value, it's about a belief. Being willing is a journey of desire, and that's scuba diving, rage to master something, and turn it into unconscious competence, where it's just the way you roll. And being able is really, in the end, being able is about skills. It's about capacity. So human performance, accessing it, body, mind, soul, relational, whatever, it's just making life work, right? It's getting results. It's going from here, wherever you are, here is, and you want to kind of go there, and there is higher ground. Human performance is pregnancy. That's human performance, right? Human performance is better circulation for a diabetic. Human performance is more energy all day, no bonking, game on from 7 in the morning, 11 at night, fully sustained. Human performance can be more wisdom for a teenager, more enlightenment for a parent. Human performance can mean better, greater recovery, stronger recovery for an athlete. But the thing about human performance is there's two facets to human performance. Most of it occurs in the incremental gain phase. It's just the work. It's just the day in, the day out, and being in the process. And through that 1 + 1 = 2, you find incremental gains. Incremental gains are evolutionary and step by step up the road to higher ground. Sometimes, if you play that game long enough for days, weeks, months, years, you have breakthroughs. And when breakthroughs happen, triggers a concept called emergence. And what emergence basically is 1 + 1 = 3. It's qualitatively different. And it's a new game. And something new happens. And you can't quite put your finger on it, but you did the work and you broke through. I want to talk to you today about urban health and its emergence. Because it's happening around the edges, but we need the masses singing its tune. Now, the process of getting ready, willing, and able, and all of sort of that life advice to my 15-year-old self in thinking about it, I probably would have bought some of it. But applying sort of this whole conversation to my 3 teenage daughters, they kind of look at me like I'm a social misfit. I am certainly not cool. I am culturally pretty irrelevant to how they roll. And the kind of the capacity that I bring to the table for them, as it relates to them, because it's all about them, is I provide food, I provide transport, and I can buy things for them. So I am kind of out of the loop as it relates to teenagers, right? So that's what I want to talk to you about today is cool, culture, and capacity. The ancient Greeks were cool. They had capacity, and they had a culture that was embedded in these ideas and ideals. And they elevated a way of living, a way of life. Much of what we believe, how we think, why we do what we do, came from this culture. The most celebrated virtue in the ancient Greeks was a virtue called arete. R-E-A-R-E-T-E, arete. And what arete basically translated means is excellence that's bound by a purpose. You can have excellence in and of itself, but it's not bound by a purpose. There's really no meaning, and it's really not sustainable. So excellence bound by purpose. Fundamentally, sort of being the best you can be. Your higher ground. In the ancient Olympic Games was a celebration of arete. What sport does, what athletics does, is provide vivid representations of excellence. The thing about athletes and the thing about sports through the sands of time that's readily apparent is, and very special, and you see it, is athletes also bring something to the game. It's called a joy found in effort. A joy found in the struggle. And that joy found in effort is a very special thing. And you know it when you see people that have it. When you see people that have a joy found in effort, you know they have capacity, they are ready, they're willing and able, and they are present. John F. Kennedy was ready, willing, and able, and present. And so there's this joy found in effort, this dance, right, between essence and expression is a forever dance between Plato's universal essence and Aristotle's sort of worldly expression. And that joy found in effort, this guy had it. He was cool, he was culturally relevant, he came to the conversation, he was ready to take a conversation to our country about activating a healthy lifestyle. Turns out in the 50s and 60s, children's health was declining. It was a grave concern. He wrote an article in Sports Illustrated entitled The Soft American. And in that article, you can Google it and read it, he talked about, I believe what the Greeks believe, that a sound body and sound mind come together. They're one and the same. It's yin and yang. They serve each other. And in it he said, because we know what, so physical fitness, vigor was a cornerstone to a thriving state, a thriving society. And in it he said, our growing softness, our lack of physical activity is a menace to society. Now is the time. We need people on the field to play, no spectators, because we want our children to bring vigor and vitality to our country. Because ask not, right? It turned out this is what you can do for your country, is to be sound body and sound mind. Well, we didn't really take his advice, did we? Right? And we know the last 50 years and the rest of the story. And as it turns out, born in the USA now means something very, very different. Born in the USA, born today, means you're born into an urban way of living and being. Basically sedentary living, screen living, super processed food living, the discord and the strife, and the conundrum about living in a modern world. The world's catching up too. We've basically exported this lifestyle to the rest of the world, and it is no longer Atlanta and New York and Chicago. It is Sao Paulo, it is Rio, it is Calcutta, it is Beijing, it is Johannesburg, Brazil. Basically, it's all over the world. And what we're finding is the majority of death in our world, 60% comes from how we roll, how we do, how we live, work, and play as a lifestyle. It's lifestyle-related chronicity, chronic disease. 60% of death in the world, right? It used to be infectious disease, now it's chronic disease. And 80% of that 60%, the supermajority of all that death occurs in ethnic, poor, urban, low and middle income, in the city. That's where death occurs. That's where it's happening. So where do we go from here, right? This train is running amok and it's going down the hill with no brakes, and where do we go from here? How do we get capacity? How do we get a culture? How do we get emergence in this whole conversation and break through? Several years ago, I was asked to speak at the National Mensa Society. And for those of you who don't know what Mensa is, you have to take an IQ test. I've been trying to overcompensate for the dumb jock ever since I retired, but I thought that was really cool because I got invited to the National Mensa Conference. Rest assured, I'm not a member. But you take this IQ test, and you test in the top 2% in the world, you're invited into the club. But I knew a doctor who was in that club, and I got the gig, and I got invited. I was asked to come speak on healthy lifestyle. And I was very proud of my talk. I thought the title of my talk, which I thought was very clever, the title of my talk was Duh. That was it. Published in the program. But I must tell you, it was a Twilight Zone experience. Because these people had the intellectual horsepower, but they were basking in the false coziness of unapplied knowledge. They maybe had it intellectually. They certainly weren't ready. They weren't willing. And they had no interest in their skill set around this thing. Here's the deal. Here's the takeaway. I didn't uncover cool for them. I didn't speak their cultural language at all. And they had little interest in the capacity and skill sets around activating a healthy life. Health is not cool. in an urban world. It's not romantic, it's not fun, there's no joy found in effort in it yet. But here's the thing about cool. It doesn't tell, it doesn't yell, it doesn't get in your face. It comes along side by side, and it romances you into intrigue, into higher ground. In terms of culture, here's the thing about culture. Culture trains and builds habits into existence unconsciously. This is the way it happens, and this is the way it unfolds. And some of you I heard were talking about kids when they're young. Monkey see, monkey do. Just unconsciously, they just develop a lifestyle, right? Culture, here's what culture does. It connects with me, and then it connects me to you, and then it connects me to something bigger than myself. Peter Drucker, management guru Peter Drucker, said, culture eats strategy for breakfast. There is an esprit de corps that is untouchable. And there's some of that in this community. I'm getting the vibe of this community. Melinda Gates, in her TED Talk, her belief system is we have to look to culture to help transform global health. In terms of capacity, in terms of the functional skill set of getting the work done, my day job is spent trying to help people eat more fruits and vegetables. That's what I do. And the skill set of doing that cliche of doing that, we stumble, mumble, fumble, and are humbled, and we just don't do it. And then we move on to all the rabbit holes of other conversations about diet, but we don't do this. We've got a program, we've got collected data on 1 million people, 500,000 kids, 500,000 adults, and here's what we're finding. Our food technology, our food concentrates, we're actually getting people to eat more fruits and vegetables, getting kids to eat more fruits and vegetables. They're taking less OTC meds. They're taking less prescription meds. They're getting sick less. To me, that's transformative, and that's pretty cool. In the world of urban agriculture, we have some more food technology that we are actually scaling up urban food production. Pretty cool, right? Like that's Willy Wonka meets the Jetsons, meets Steve Jobs in a design, elegant, simple solution. 10% of the water, 10% of the space, 10 times the yield. We're giving and providing and leveraging individuals, families, schools, communities to scale up urban food production. Fresh, clean, beautiful food. How cool is that? So, health today is a functional skill. It's an acquired doing. It is an adaptive trait, and there's a functional literacy to it. It is a curriculum, and to build that kind of capacity, it has to be Common Core in our educational system. It has to be on par, at the table, and right next to reading, writing, and arithmetic as a subject matter to thrive in our modern world. Now that's 1 + 1 = 2, and that's basically practical and educational and just the compounding effect of that knowledge and how that transforms. But we need a breakthrough. We really need a breakthrough. And that's one for the crazy ones. Now, my sport, downhill ski racing, there's a little bit of crazy involved in that, but it's calculated risk. And it's crazy with a joy found in effort. Take high risk, high reward. Also, penalty for error can be high. So I want to share with you an idea that is risky. But the reward to me is pretty high. About a couple years ago, my buddies and I over beers, my compatriots, we were studying what makes great events. Transformative, iconic, moments that pivot and change things, that are enduring. What makes them got game, essentially. And when I say South by Southwest, when I say Woodstock, when I say Sundance Film Festival, when I say American Idol or Dancing with Stars, or when I say Burning Man, if you know what that, these are events, and we started to study these things. We started to find the design behind what makes these things tick and what makes them work. And here's what we found out. South by Southwest, very cool, very hip, very urban. Today's sort of urban, young urban professional. The other thing it has is a city partner that is significant. Austin provides a tremendous amount of hard and soft resources to that event. And a city partner was another thing that we thought was in its success and its design. Woodstock, pretty obvious, a cultural awakening. Didn't know what I didn't know. Aha. Sundance is pretty special. I lived in Park City for 10 years, and I watched Sundance grow and expand. And the thing about Sundance is it brought capacity to individual expression, to individual art, individual film. And it provided an annual competition that kept it fresh, new, and clean, and hot, and vibrant each year, something new, the newness, the novelty which we crave. And it also did another very special thing. It provided a very unique venue, a venue that was not obvious. Basically, city folk, urban folk, descending and avalanching into a mountain town, massive clash of cultures. Provided great storytelling for the media, and basically the celebrities and paparazzi and the press, they all want to be there because it's fun and it's cool, and in and of that self created momentum. American Idol provides this campfire called the TV, competition around artistic expression, and a public vote. A public vote is important. Burning Man, for those of you who don't know Burning Man is basically the yellow submarine, the magic bus meets the psychedelic furs in the middle of the desert, and 30,000 people come together for a week, and then they disappear without a trace. It's crazy. You study up on that, and you'll find the design behind that is rooted in self-expression. It's rooted in self-reliance, grounded and wrapped in the context of self-organizing as a community. And it's very tribal. So, art and urban. One of the here's the unifying theory in all of this sort of study. They all converge around art. They all converge around creative self-expression and the creativity found in that. What if we took art, urban art, in all its manifestations, in all its forms, and attached it to urban health? What if we put urban art at the service of urban health? There does not exist, as far as I know, an urban convergence and emergence, a festival around the celebration of art, a celebration of hip-hop, a celebration of urban dance, a celebration of urban fashion, a celebration of graffiti art, of tricked-out cars, of slam poetry. You ever heard slam poetry? It's cool. But it's not my culture, but I love to lean into it and experience it. What if we could take that in a Sundance kind of immersive week, celebrate in an annual competition with user-generated output from the streets in a competitive format where we converged to celebrate what was great about urban, to celebrate which is permeated from the streets to the richest parts of the world and transform the world in that urban artistic expression. So here's my invitation to the 431. Here's my invitation to you as a community. Art and urban, 1 + 1, might equal 3 if we attach it to something else, a purpose around urban health. So what if we could celebrate urban art and put it at the service of urban health? What if we could take a cool convergence around art and have disruptive creativity, insurgent capacity, with the possibility of some kind of emergence? You can imagine all of the artistic expression dying to come to this event and be labeled the next urban icon, because here's what you get. You get a wicked cool event, which would be really appeal to my 15-year-old self right now, like South by Southwest. You get a cultural awakening, perhaps like Woodstock. In Sundance, what you'd get is an annual competitive format where you're awarding the best of the best. Public vote, you could enable this with media, certain like American Idol. And with Burning Man, it would be tribal, it would be community-driven around self-reliance and self-expression and celebration. And in the end, great societies do great things. It's pretty simple. And if you can understand one thing about Sundance that I think applies to this as an idea, you need to take urban out of its element. You need to take culture out of its element and put it somewhere else to be disruptive. Because here's what it does. This fish out of water concept gives it just enough difference, just enough pivot to make people lean in and tell me more about that. So imagine the tricked out cars and the slam poetry and the hip hop descending in a culture, in a mountain environment, perhaps. I think cities would line up, or small cities would line up to bring urban to their way of life, to their living. Let me just wrap up by saying, if you're interested in health, in urban health, it's a big, big problem. Joe talked last night about going from 1 million to 1 billion. This has to be cool. This has to be cultural, and it has to generate some sort of capacity. The only way you can do that is if you align with the next generation and put it in a framework where they can speak the language and they find a joy found in effort. So for this community, vibrant, living, breathing, tribal activity can connect us to a grander scale. Great societies are grounded by powerful culture. And the crucible that defines culture is a community. And this is a pretty cool community. And it's up to something. And we're all trying to find the something and the big play and the emergence and get to 1 + 1 = 3. So if you're looking for a pickup game around urban emergence and health, I welcome and invite you. We need help. But we have to Tom Sawyer this one. We got to give this thing away. We can be the instigator and be behind the scenes, but we got to Tom Sawyer this thing. We need to help a whole new community that's not this community start to paint the white fence. And they need to run with this, and they need to roll this. We maybe are just the behind-the-scenes thing that enables it. So if you're looking for a pickup game in this conversation, we'd love to have you, and thank you for your time. I'll be around.